back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All righty, we are back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com.
Sound excited.
I'm kind of excited because it's a bye week, and this week is going to kind of suck for Big 12 play, but next week is the mother load because not only is Bedlam coming, but right before that game, you've got Iowa State taking on Kansas State. Is that the game? No. Is that the game?
They play at 3 o'clock before Bedlam,
yeah. So OU could control their own destiny by the time Bedlam kicks off. So we're joined by Bob Przbillo, who is on the road, and I know real quick it's a national signing day for hoops, and I even
that just came out of nowhere. I was not ready for it.
And I saw that Clayton Smith had a mock signing day at his school on his Instagram. So I guess probably what it was they knew they weren't going to be back in school, or probably not when December got here, or even if December was going to be here. So he pretends signed with Oklahoma today. It's not if you see that out there on social media, it's not binding. There's nothing that it's not for football. So anyway, but Bob is out heading to see Bijan Cortes. Bijan. Is it Bijan or Bijan?
Like Bijan Robinson. Yep.
Okay, Bijan Cortes, who is signing today. So it seems like he signed about 2 years ago. I was telling that to
he's
Eddie
been committed since 8th grade. I mean, it feels like that at least.
But Bob, tell us about your day.
Yeah.
And he hit sell hell.
I mean, it does feel weird. Just don't realize that recruiting my out.
You're back in, sort of. Try it again. Start from the top.
Okay. I'm Northwest Expressway, so I don't have a clue if you're going to lose me. But, yeah, when it comes to Bijan, someone that OU offered a while ago, and really like what he brings to the table in terms of the point guard and a scorer, someone who's did a lot of lifting in terms of recruiting. CJ Noland as well. That'll be one of my big questions for him, his relationship with Noland and how important it was that they played together. But this is also the first signing ceremony during COVID. So I don't know what to expect. But it's supposed to get going here around 2 p.m. And just, for everything that they've had to go through, missing the state tournament and things like that, really want to be there and give him appreciation for what he's been able to accomplish, and hopefully they can get a senior season going and he can try to go out on a high note.
Guys, is it just me, or does it sound like Bob's car is being attacked by rogue Democratic balloters?
I'm staying out of the politics.
There's a big truck right next to me that I just passed. So hopefully that sound goes away.
Well, just catch us up real quick, Bob, on OU's early signing, and I know there's been some eligibility things that have been cleared up recently. And you've started having your interviews with Lon Kruger and basketball players. Where is Oklahoma right now in terms of guys that they're getting today and that they're getting back for the season or getting eligibility for?
Yeah, I mean they're doing really well in the backcourt. They need some help in the front court, but that's something they'll have to address going down the road. But
the Democratic pollsters got him. Those bastards.
Oh no, that was just a straight up hang up.
The next hour and a half or so.
He's still going. He's still going. We lost you before you even started talking.
Seconds.
Yeah.
Yep.
When you were going to update us on everything that's going on with you said they're doing really well in the front court, and then or the back court. They're doing really well in the back court, and then I think you started talking about the front court, but then you were gone.
Yeah, just the fact that they're getting Mo Gibson to be able to play this season is huge. He'll bring a lot to the table, and they'll just have to find some front court help going into the next signing period. And then if Brady Manick or Kirk West decide to come back for next season, that's another wrinkle that's out there. Now that this is a free year for all of those guys. That's something that OU will definitely be paying attention to. But they're locked down. CJ Noland, a huge pickup to go along. Bijan, just love what they've got going there and with the guard play for the next couple of years. Now it's about solidifying themselves up front.
I just got to think, with Kerr, I mean, there's with so much uncertainty in the NBA about, how much money there's going to be. And I don't know how that's going to affect like the G League and, the way things are going. Like, are teams going to want to have kind of bloated rosters and things like that in their minor leagues? And you've had so many players that have said they're pulling out of the draft, which I know you're always going to have a lot of guys that just want to. College isn't for them. They want to go and try and make it. Even who was James Frachilla's buddy that left to go play in France early? I was kind of pissed about.
Amath
Mbaye. And he was fine. Like, I remember saying something.
He's made a healthy living over there. He's still playing.
I remember saying something like, "Oh, that's a mistake," and he immediately clapped back at me on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh, I'm an asshole. I'm sorry." But he was like, "No, this is what I want to do, man. Like, it's not just about the NBA. There's I could have a career playing basketball. I want to do that." So, you'll see some of that stuff, but I gotta think, not losing eligibility and all this stuff, it can only help guys right now, especially like Kirk Wath, because I think we might have lost Bob, but I think there's a lot of there with him as far as his ceiling.
He flashed at times last year, and I guess I'm kind of interested to see what somebody like a Rick Costanza can bring. I mean, they legitimately have some size inside. That hasn't happened in a long time in Norman. And then you also have to see how they develop some of the what can you get anything out of the AG kid? They're loaded in the backcourt though, as far as guys they're going to be able to fill it up.
What's Bijan's ceiling as a player in college, Bob?
I think it's a lot better than what people think, because they look at him, they see a Hispanic kid. There's no way he could really be good at basketball, but then he gets out there. He can shoot the three. He's got really nice court vision. Something that averaged like 22 points and 6 assists last season, and he's a winner. He knows how. Yellow Jacks have been one of the most successful programs in the state the last couple of years. I think he's got a real future, not only because he can go either way. He can be a scorer or he can become that passer, and he brings a lot to the table. I think this is an underrated signing, at least at this point. We'll see what happens after his senior season if he gets a rankings bump, but I really love what he brings to the table.
Bob brought race to the party. That was odd.
I did.
Would you have done the same for an Asian kid?
He might have some of the best hair that they've signed in a long time, too.
Yeah. Although, who knows? It might be really, really long now. I mean, have you seen him recently?
I have not.
That feels like a shot across your bow, Eddie.
What?
That he might have better hair?
The COVID hair?
I might get my hair cut today. I saw myself in the mirror this morning and...
Wasn't proud?
No, I was proud. It looks good right now. It looks great.
It's so long when you put the Four Seasons backdrop as your Zoom yesterday that your hair was like disappearing and coming back and disappearing and coming back.
Well, that's the disappearing act that you get with my hair. It looked really good when I had like the actual mullet, but I think that's gone by the wayside. I don't have anywhere to get my hair cut. That's my problem right now.
Did your guy die of COVID?
No, it was cancer.
Wow.
What?
Carry the
bastard. It's been a while. It's been a while, and I've been going to places like
that maybe you had an older barber, that you've been going to him since high school.
No, I've been going to him since middle school.
Maybe he died, but I wasn't sure. But
no, it's been a while, and I've been going to like your generic haircut places. I think it's time to take a step up. I think I need to get I need to get some good hair. I need to get a barber or a hairdresser.
Somewhere where you make your next appointment when you leave.
Maybe get a gay gentleman to cut my hair.
Sure. Nothing wrong with that.
They're usually pretty good at the job.
He's not with the Hispanics, apparently.
Well, maybe maybe start looking a little bit better. I don't know if Dean Blevins asked me to come on TV, I'll get my hair cut.
Bob, I know you've got other things to do today, and we'll be looking forward to your coverage on Sooner Scoop, and we'll let you get out of there before the Republican pollsters start roaming the streets.
We'll also be talking to Lon Kruger this afternoon, so we'll have plenty of wrap up on that kind of stuff.
We'll have a lot. It just kind of worked out that it's football bye week that coincides with basketball signing day, so still a lot of content coming.
You didn't miss a lot today with the defensive players. I'll just tell you that right now.
I didn't think so.
The Big 12 is a team in the Big 12 that used to not be in the Big 12 that is the Big 12. We'll leave it at that.
Something.
I can't wait to
like
read
that. All right, Bob. We'll let you get.
All right,
we
guys.
appreciate it. Thanks for giving us the update on the hoops. And there he goes. Bye.
I will say, I'm slightly excited about not only Oklahoma this year in the Big 12, but the Big 12 as a whole. I don't know if you saw Matt Norlander and Kyle Boone put out it's the top 101 players in college basketball this year, and I'm pretty sure that the Big 12 had more than 15 guys on that list.
It's been a great conference.
Number 2, Cade Cunningham. The entire college basketball. I think Luke Garza, the kid from Iowa, was number 1. Can't remember where Brady and Austin Reeves were both in the top 60, I want to say. Can't remember what they were exactly, though. West Virginia has their entire starting lineup in it. They're supposed to be unbelievable this year. And Baylor's the number 2 team in the country. And then you have Kansas, Tech, OU, OSU. It's going to be a really good conference. And that's talking basketball.
That's your basketball talk. To
Hey,
start
Josh.
the show.
Can I come back in now?
Yes, you
I actually
can.
got to talk during basketball talk. That was kind of exciting, but
Well, you probably get dressed down about it on the board.
I know my place. Yeah. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to pretend I should be anywhere else.
Josh is almost going through moving hell, which, God, I don't think I'll ever move ever. I hate it so much. It's got to be my least favorite thing on this earth to do is to move.
When'd you move in here?
11 years ago, 12 years ago.
Okay, because this is the only house that I've ever known.
Yeah, I was apartment man before this.
Yeah, I remember the apartment. That's where we did the video, those few breakdowns we did where I had the long hair and everybody was like, oh, my God, this is a dirty hippie that we're listening to recruiting news from. Who do we break down? Steve Williams was one of them, the DB from Skyline. Yeah, I'm trying to remember some of those names. We did some some strong content back in the day.
And I think the only reason I
wet.
bought a house was just so I could have more room so we could do more video content. And then you moved to Houston.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was almost like you moved, you're saying 08, 09, and then I moved to Houston in 10. So,
You've been in Houston since 2010?
Yep. We were.
It just does not feel like that.
And Carey's talking about that, he moved 12 years ago. In that time, I have moved 1, 2. This will be my 4th move in that time.
Yeah, it's awful.
So, and one of them, like I said, was across state lines and about 500 miles.
And I've been to your mansion, before this one, before you moved into, what's his name's neighborhood, Daryl Morey's.
Yeah, sure.
James Harden. And you have a lot of shit to move.
A lot of shit to move.
And plus you've had a kid since I visited you.
Yeah.
Last.
This is the first year that this move into this rental that I'm in now and the move we're about to make into the house we built, that's the first times I've ever not moved everything in my house. That is a freeing experience. That was one of the best first world situations I've ever been involved with. Not having to move all my bedding. Because when we moved into that house you came to, Carey, I damn near died. I was like, I think I'm too old for this. I'm officially too old to move everything I own because we just have entirely too much shit. So,
no, you reach. I think that's probably your youngest age where you realize, I'm getting older. The first time you have to move from a house to another house, you're probably kind of in your mid-30s.
Yep.
And that's usually when you're like, shit, I can't do this anymore.
Yep. I go to the gym, I work out, but I was tired. We had a mattress on the floor that night, and I don't think I even needed it. Like, I could have slept on the tile in the entryway. So I was beat. But no, this has been better. So, we're going to have some guys move most of it. I still do like anything that's breakable or that kind of I only trust me to do those things. But in general, I've moved on from needing to be a He-Man and carry everything around.
I was
sleeping
thinking
on
about
sleeping on tile is actually not that bad. I've done it before.
I trust that you have.
One of Carey's first memories of me is sleeping on
Yes,
tile. So,
in a hotel bathroom.
You got to make sure that it's warm enough for you, and maybe get a blanket / towel to use as a pillow.
Depends on if you're going to bed in a certain way. Maybe the cold is better.
Yeah, sometimes I could see that.
It can be.
Helps with the
right
spins.
until it's not. Yeah, right until it's not.
I mean, you're reminding me of so many things about apartment living right now. I had an apartment, and we would party, and I would often go in to the next morning to find a man with his head in the toilet. I mean, it's not uncommon for me to walk into a bathroom, or it wasn't at one point in my life, to walk into a bathroom and someone was asleep in there in varying positions. I think we've all been through that.
Yes.
And the
biggest problem is just doing something with the body after you get done.
No, they're alive.
Oh.
Barely, but
Never
still
mind.
alive. Here's the one thing that I was thinking about this the other day. And Josh, you can verify this phenomenon. But like when you are a man, the last thing I think you lose that is just yours is usually by the time you're ready to get married, you have the perfect mattress. You love that mattress. It's the most comfortable mattress at that point in your life that you've ever had. But immediately when you move in with your wife, you have to get a new mattress because you f***ed people on that's not her, and she knows it.
I will have to check with Tiff because this did happen.
See?
I mean, there was a quick removal. I will say she was very crafty if that was the cause for it.
No, they say things like, I just need a firmer mattress or a softer
soft.
mattress. Yeah. No, you have to get rid of the mattress because they know that you have f***ed other women on that mattress.
And that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
like,
no,
I
it's good.
wouldn't want another dude's sauce up on my bed. I got it. That's fine. So that's reasonable enough, sure. But yeah, that's a horrible thing that I'd never thought of, and I apologize to all women that are with men like myself.
If
that
you're
are
a
not considerate
man
enough to think of that,
and you're going to get married, you cannot refuse her that request of a new mattress.
I think that comes with a new MyPillow these days.
And extra Trump votes.
See, now,
No
are
comment.
you guys particular about a pillow?
No.
Yes,
I could sleep on any pillow. It doesn't matter.
I'm not that dude. I have to have. I have side pillows and neck pillows and sleeper pillows. Like,
oh dear Lord,
I have 7 pillows in
pillow
my bed. I
problems.
think.
do you really?
Uh-huh.
Oh God! Like,
Well,
I need 2.
I usually just I started with 2, and then I went to 4, and then I started buying. I started buying nice pillows. Why is my neighbor calling me? I started buying nice. Hold on, just a second. Is this an emergency, Gus?
No.
Okay. Welcome to the Unofficial 40 podcast.
Hi, Gus.
I just had a question for you when you're done.
Well, ask me now.
Are you going to be in town this weekend?
Yes.
Okay.
Am I gonna have to do manual labor?
No, I was going to park mine and Susan cars over by your house if we could, because we're getting carpet.
You're getting carpet?
Yeah.
Is that why you have a giant TV screen in your garage now?
Rugs match to the drapes.
No, that's just for
He
game time.
can't hear you. He's not plugged into the board. He's just talking to me.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, do whatever you got to do. If you want to park behind
Well, I feel
like
better now.
my
I thought he was just rude. He didn't
Eclipse,
return my hello.
go ahead.
I did too.
Oh, are you sure you don't want to take that out this weekend?
Yeah, I'd have to air up the tires again.
No, we'll either park on that side road or right behind that Eclipse. They got to cut the carpet out on the driveway and stuff, and I got all them cars and stuff. So.
All right, man. Sounds good.
All right, thanks, sir.
No problem. Later.
You know what I was
Neighbor
thinking?
talk with Carey and Gus.
Yeah, I'm glad I never have talked to my neighbors. Although one of them's pretty cool. He's actually, I think he helps over at Millwood, maybe. We need to recreate Lincoln's picture in that car out there. You know, with I'll bring all my trophies and stuff.
Oh, my God.
Don't you think? I was thinking about that the other day.
We need a convertible, though.
We can take the top off, I'm sure.
Of what?
That car out there.
The Eclipse?
Yes. Just take it off. You're not going to do anything with it.
No, you're right.
We can just saw it off.
This is a huge revelation. The Eclipse still exists.
Yes.
Oh my God!
Well, here's the problem.
Died years ago.
Here's the problem. You can no longer open the doors on the Eclipse because
we have to take the roof off. How else am I going to get in?
Because the latches in it go bad, and so the only way to get into it is to crawl through the rear hatch. And I had to get new tires put on it because the city was going to tow it.
Should have just let him tow it.
It has stuff in there that I still need.
Oh, no.
There's a lot of
you realize you could have
CDs
just
in
gotten
there.
it out and then let them tow it.
But I have to crawl through the hatch to get the shit. That's the problem.
Crawl canceled.
You had to crawl through the hatch to get the tires.
Yeah, they
So
towed
you
it.
just bought tires.
No, and I tried to tell them, hey, can you get this started again for me? They're like, we can't. We think the gas is bad. You have to drop the tank out of it. And trust me, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to fix an Eclipse, and I'm not buying those lifts to put in my garage so I can get under it and work on it.
Well, Carey, why don't you crawl through the hatch, get the shit you need out of it, and then do the cars for kids thing or whatever. Like, let them have
That's a
that
scam,
thing.
by the way.
Well, what? There's got to be somebody that will take that damn car off your
Look,
property.
can you just leave me the dream that someday I will restore this into Paul Walker's Eclipse from Fast and the Furious?
Well, it didn't work out too well for Paul Walker.
It's a dream of mine.
He hasn't made any movies lately.
Are you going to go out like that, Carey? Oh, God, it's crazy.
No, I'm not going to die if I rebuild the Fast and Furious Eclipse, all right? He didn't die in that car. He died in a Porsche, and he wasn't even driving, I don't think.
Kind of feels like a failure, doesn't it?
There was a dude that had one of those in Norman that was driving it around, and
Like that Porsche?
No. The Eclipse,
like the Eclipse?
The green Eclipse. It's not even a turbo, though, so I don't even know if it would really...
Yikes.
That shit is super popular in Houston. I see a lot of that kind of
Like
crap.
people doing their Fast and Furious
that
stuff.
Go to the Fast and Furious with lube in their pocket. They're pretty excited about it.
There's usually a, how do I say this, particular demo
Yeah.
that does that.
Yeah, it's pretty cut and dry on that one.
Maryland,
we've
Ohio
mentioned-
State canceled this weekend, by the way.
Oh, poor Tuglia, or Truvia, or whatever his name is.
So
I think Truvia is a sweet substitute or sugar
what
substitute.
movie rerun are you guys most excited to watch on Saturday this weekend as it fills in for all the games that will
Oh,
not
my
be being
God.
played?
Well, I'll be watching the Masters.
Oh, of course. All
If
right,
Rocky
all
IV
right.
came on, that'd be good.
It's never a bad time for Shawshank, TBS. It's never a bad time.
They play it a lot. They run it a lot. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you are now in COVID craziness.
Yep.
Well,
It's
usually
hit the SEC. The Big Ten is getting it. I mean, Baylor's already had it. OU's had their scare. OSU was terrible in the preseason. Kansas State obviously had their scare. Iowa State, I think, had it real bad in the preseason from everything we heard. Texas has seemed to be pretty clear. Tech had it really bad. Baylor had it really bad.
OSU had it really bad.
We're covering some of these twice now. I just want that to be out
Basically, Texas is the only one
Texas?
that hasn't really gotten wiped out by it.
And I wonder how much of that is, and this might be just completely stupid, but I feel like the football program is pretty far apart from the university. You know, like I remember them saying that they only had like 70 or 80% was all online this year, this semester in Austin. And they're basically just traveling back and forth. Like, I guess what I'm saying is they don't have a whole lot of interaction with the student population. But at the same time, Austin's a big-ass town, so I don't know if that – I don't know.
Well, are you guys surprised it's this week? I would have thought last week, coming off the heels of Halloween, that was going to be.
Well, it's usually 2 weeks out when stuff happens.
Sure.
Just like I'm worried about the Big 12 because it'll be 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, basically.
Mm-hmm. Well, I usually roll my eyes when somebody asks Lincoln Riley about something like that, but I mean, I think it is a very valid conversation to be had this week, going into Bedlam and obviously going into a bye week. Just for the fact of you look across the landscape of college football right now, and there's 4 games in the SEC canceled. You add in the Big Ten today. Army and Navy seemingly are never going to play football again on those campuses.
Oh.
I mean, Navy's now canceled 2 times, or the last 2 weeks, right?
Tulsa got screwed again this weekend, right? Isn't Tulsa's game canceled?
Or
is it in danger?
I thought it was in danger. I don't think that they've actually canceled. I think they're playing this weekend.
So, if you're Zaven Collins, do you even want Tulsa to play again?
I don't.
Like, I've put the tape out. I'm set to be a high draft pick. I'm all good.
Tulsa plays SMU.
All I'm going to do is hurt myself. My best case is I'm going to play in like the Cheez-It Bowl.
That's actually one of the best games of the
week. I mean, honestly,
Tulsa,
if he was at a bigger school right now, I'd imagine he would maybe think about opting out.
Yep.
I mean, because he's probably done enough to certainly put his name into the conversation to be drafted. Obviously.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's a first or second day pick. Would be my bet.
He's had a hell of a year. I mean,
See, and I had thrown this out there about what if OU and OSU could have moved theirs up a week, but after the results of last weekend, the last thing they would want to do would move a game up.
Yeah, I think that both of those teams are taking advantage of the bye week.
Tyler Wallace needs to get healthy. Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner need to get healthy.
Real quick, what did you think of Zaven Collins coming out of high school? Because that's such a unique story, and it's going to be told millions of times from here on in when he does get drafted.
Eddie, I might have said this on the pod, but I went back. I watched his tape about a month ago. Went back and watched his high school stuff because I can flat out say I didn't see him in high school. He was not on my radar until super late. I think I'd even done my last rankings or something like that. He just wasn't that big of a role in what I was doing. But I went back. So I look on his, first off, you get to his huddle page. He's listed as a quarterback at like 6'4", like 201 or something like that, 195, somewhere in that ballpark. And his 40 that he ran at a Nike Combine is 5.01. How is anybody going to be like, I mean, good on Tulsa. Hey, great for you. Like, but how you could be like, oh, everybody should have seen this coming. No,
sure.
No. Don't do that. And it's one of those things where I get into this all the time with these kids that play quarterback in their high school, and I'll watch, 5 minutes of tape, and the first 3 minutes is them playing quarterback. Dude, you've got to understand, if you want a chance, it's not at quarterback. Like, I understand that's where you played a lot of, but I don't even want to watch you throw. Like, unless you're running around or making a play with your feet, just cut that highlight because it doesn't matter to your recruiting. And that's, I think some of what happened with him is it was so quarterback focused that people had to kind of sift through it to get to, oh, he's a really good athlete.
It's just crazy how I guess that's a perfect example of somebody that, I mean, I guess in a way we missed on him, but every other team in the country missed on him. And I guess that's kind of my point as far as it's just funny how just every college coach missed on that guy.
There's always going to be a program that benefits from just like, Iowa State offered early when they got Breece Hall, but I mean, they're the perfect type of program that's going to benefit from somebody like a Breece Hall.
No doubt. And
Tulsa's going to have those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, who is the defensive back?
I mean, honestly,
Flanders.
Yeah. Honestly, that's one of those situations though that, and this is not a slight at Tulsa at all. They should have more of those kids, shouldn't they?
Don't get blocked.
Shouldn't they have more of those kids though? That OU, OSU, Texas, whoever misses out on, they end up in Tulsa.
Well,
it's not like they fall into their lap.
SMU is being built right now, but the problem is Dallas, washouts versus Tulsa washouts. You can't build a program off of that.
No, you can't.
I'd say washouts, but I'd mean people that
forget Tulsa. Kansas should be banking on those types of kids, and we saw that on Saturday. I mean,
Well, they did when Mark Mangino was their coach.
Sure. Kansas might be one of the worst college football teams at the Division I level I've ever seen.
Josh, I just think, and maybe we've talked about this before, but what has happened that is really, I mean, people have figured it out. It's no longer, teams aren't as successful recruiting junior college players. They're having success recruiting transfers.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a big part of it, and that, they were, during the broadcast, I know you guys were there, they were given so much credit. Oh, Les Miles is he's just going to recruit the high school ranks and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's great. But this is not college basketball where you do that and then you continue to let those guys develop, and then Gonzaga's got a great senior class every second or third year, and they're going to really compete for a national title. It's not that way in football. Like, that's fine, but it's not like everybody's leaving after year one. I mean, the odds that the Kansas senior is going to be that much better than Oklahoma sophomore is incredibly small. Like, that doesn't add up that way. And then Oklahoma's still got a whole bunch of seniors anyway. So, like, it's just not the same thing. And they were like, well, Les Miles wouldn't recruit any transfers. He wouldn't recruit junior college or out of the transfer portal. And I'm like, I guess I can kind of get there on junior college, although I think it's amazing how many people disregard what Bill Snyder did and what his model was. Like, that can work. It doesn't, I mean, there's a lot of great players in the junior college ranks that you just got to get on campus and make work. But to ignore the transfer portal just seems like, we decided we're not taking transfers, so we're not taking any transfers. Like, no, don't be stupid. Don't be, like, just militant about it. But, they had to find something nice to say about Kansas, and I think that's what they were going with.
Who is they, Josh?
Tom damn Luginbill. Who I gave credit to early in the broadcast.
Like 10 minutes to bring it up, but you were on the verge of losing your shit during the broadcast.
I haven't gone back and watched the game. Give me a quick summary of all the dumb shit he said.
Well, there was that, and then, I mean, like I said, I didn't like that, and then he went into now, he said very early in the game, and this is, I tweeted out, like, he's actually doing a nice job here. I tried to give him credit. And he was talking about Charleston Rambo has been a bit of a problem. Like, he isn't making the plays that everybody expected him to make. And I was like, hey, he's the first announcer that's noticed that this season. Like, everybody keeps talking about Rambo like he's the whole point of the passing offense.
Yeah, don't
like,
let Tim Brando talk about Charleston Rambo.
He's just non-existent. But it's stuff like, I mean, then he would go into, I'm trying to think of some of them off the top of my head, and I'm going to fail, I can tell already. But it's just one of those things where he would start talking about things, and you're like, that's not true. Like, as good as the Rambo point was, like, when he broke down the whole thing with the fumble, he went on and on and on about it, and he was right. I missed it at first, but he somehow missed that the guy that poked the ball loose of Buki was stepping out of bounds, and that the guy, when the ball hit him, he was out of bounds. Like, and I get that there's specialized rules about that, but don't tell me for a second Tom Luginbill knew that. Don't tell me that. I don't believe it. That's bull.
If Lincoln Riley says in the post-game press conference he didn't know that rule, he's never even seen a play like that, he's seen a lot more football than Luke.
Tom Luginbill's dad coached.
I'd like to see that debate.
I'm not saying he's Al Luginbill. He's Tom.
And his dad coached, and Tom played at Georgia Tech. I don't know if you knew he played at Georgia Tech.
That play was crazy, though. I didn't even realize it at the time that kid's foot was out of bounds, because I started getting texts, and I was like, I don't know why you're asking me about this. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And then I went back and looked, and obviously talked about it after the game and the postgame pod and stuff.
The thing about that rule that is stupid is there is not a more well-known fundamental in football than when you're running with the ball, you switch it to the hand closest to the sideline to protect it from the players on the field coming at you. Like, there should not be a rule that helps you subvert that fundamental of football where you can run outside the guy out of bounds and slap the ball out.
I've just never seen it. I've literally never seen it.
Like, that's a rule that needs to be changed.
Well, they'll probably spend too much time on something else that doesn't need to happen. That sounds like NCAA officiating 101. Oh, you want this to get changed? Yeah, we had an idea about how you need to signal fair catch. You need to put both arms up in the air now. Just sounds like something stupid they would say.
But outside of that, we haven't even talked about the game.
Kansas, that is the worst Division I football team I've ever seen. And I don't know if you heard Gabe talk about it, but he said something to the effect of like the sideline wasn't even like they were just there. There was no, like that a boy type like atmosphere on the sidelines. It was just basically we're going to go 3 and out, come sit on the sidelines, let the defense go out, give up a touchdown, come back and just repeat.
I'm sure Les Miles has checked out a little bit at this point.
I think that's the last time that he's ever coached against Oklahoma. Like if I was him, I would just go to him, say, "Give me half of what you owe me. Let's call it good."
It'd be hard to do that right now.
Well, maybe he could just leave.
It's going to be hard to get bought out if you're...
I mean, he has to be a psycho if he really thought that they were going to run the ball on OU.
Like, Texas might be one of the only schools that would buy out their coaches in this current climate. It's just like Michigan could do it, but it's very few schools. Like,
sure. Kansas is not Michigan or Texas.
Yeah. They're like, we suck. Let's not go broke sucking. Let's just... keep the train on the tracks, and eventually we'll get through this.
Well, yeah, because Kansas, I mean, they got out a little bit over their skis and how they paid him. I mean, he's making almost $3 million a year with like annual retention bonuses of like $500,000 plus.
Well, and remember, David Beatty, like they went to court because they were trying to cheap out of his buyout.
Yeah, they were saying it was Division I infractions, wasn't it?
Yeah,
they made him up.
They were trying to pin these really secondary violations on him, saying that he violated terms that was for a cause. So they went to court for like 2 years and ended up saving what they paid him by like $30,000 or something stupid, and then they added a bunch of lawyer fees, on top of it. So it's not like they're doing fantastic, and their money comes from basketball, and who knows how they're going to be. I mean, basketball is so reliant on attendance more than TV. Like that, they're going to be hurt.
Weird.
But I will say this: the Kansas game, we don't have to break it down. I mean, we're just going to say all the same shit we've been saying.
It was an ass kicking.
Defensive line's great. Ramondre Stevenson's fantastic. Secondary's playing really well, getting turnovers.
Well, let me ask you, John.
Offensive line. Rattler.
I told Carey after the game, it's like they won by 59, and I don't feel like they played well offensively.
I agree completely, Eddie. It never felt like they got in sync on offense, but they just, I mean...
Well, yeah, Lincoln Riley put a one-legged quarterback on the field for the entire second half. Well, not the entire, but...
I mean, that was so weird to me because, like I said, this isn't... I mean, you can think back to Carey, you remember really well the whole controversy with Jason White when he had the knee thing and they put him back on the field, and Bob kind of got ripped for that for a while. And then
because he tried to say it was a sprain and it was a ACL tear.
Yeah, and with Lincoln, he's always felt like overly cautious. Like if this guy's not 100%, we're not going to play him. Like just very careful with his play. He's a modern head coach. They have to be more player focused, and we're going to take care of our guys. And you just can't run it that way. And I'm not saying Bob wasn't, but Lincoln's more so. So that whole thing was weird, and it felt so out of character. But at the same time, it was a situation where my bigger concern wasn't that Spencer Rattler was going to get hurt, because I there's no question he talked to the training staff and was like, is he going to get hurt any further? Okay, no, he's fine. Okay, fine. But my question was like, do you not understand that you're putting him at risk for a different type of injury? Because he can't run away from anybody. If there's any pressure, he's in trouble. If, like the throw to Stogner, he couldn't drive on that ball.
No.
And that's one of the reasons Austin got left, just hanging, is because he didn't have time to get to the ball and then react to the defender. And there were a couple other throws where you're like, man, if that gets to where you wanted it to go, somebody's going to get hurt there. And so, like I said, it was just more a question of, it's not that I thought Rattler was going to get hurt. It was just, could there be a issue farther down the line because these guys can't protect themselves?
I don't know if this is the way that Lincoln Riley's mind works, but it was almost like you haven't played well, and I don't want this to be like the last thing you think about before you go into a big Bedlam game. Let's try and end this on the right note almost. And I don't know if that's what he was thinking.
Before you leave.
Right. Like let's get everybody on the same page before you go into a bye week, before you go into a game against the best defense you're probably going to play this year. And I don't know if that, and maybe it's different if it's not Kansas. Like if they're playing West Virginia, maybe that ends differently. But it was almost like, and to a certain extent, I think that's why they let Hazelwood play. It's like, you need to get some run before we really throw you in the fire in 2 weeks.
But the pick he threw was early in the game.
Yeah, that was awful.
Before he ever
it was
got
just
hurt.
awful. It was a bad decision.
And maybe Rambo was involved in not running his route the correct way.
Yeah, I think Rambo had an issue there too. Like I'm not. It's a bad decision. That doesn't change any of that. It was a bad choice, but you can't tell me Rambo did what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to either work toward him, work vertically. Instead, he just stopped.
But
and
again,
none of that.
OU was going to win that game in that fashion, no matter what. But
sure,
between 4 turnovers in the first half, 2 on the same play, the ridiculous amounts of television replay that are just over the top, like the crowd and the press box booed the refs during that game.
I wasn't. So did Trammell really boo the refs out loud?
Yeah, he said, he said, I know we can't cheer in the press box, but can we boo? And someone said, yeah, you can boo. And he just started booing the refs.
That's great.
I mean, it was just awful. And then he gets hurt, and he's not the same quarterback. Like you guys said, he couldn't step into throws. And really, the person that had probably the best drive of the day was Tanner Mordecai.
Yeah. I thought the touchdown he threw to Mims, that was a great throw, great catch. That was like the first time that I thought, that was like that. In a way, that was like almost the first time that I was really impressed with Tanner Mordecai.
In a game situation, sure. Absolutely. That's the most impressive he's been.
He just seems like he's, and I guess when you get thrown out there in like the second play that you're in, you get basically ear-holed by somebody coming off the edge that was never blocked. Maybe you will get happy feet, but I don't know. I think I'm also just biased towards Chandler Morris. I love some Chandler Morris.
There definitely was a groundswell of QB2 for Chandler Morris before that drive happened.
I've been in love with that kid since me and Josh went and saw him at Jerry World.
He's a little Baker.
I like it. I like those HP kids. I signed a kid from HB today to play golf.
You signed?
Oh, you did.
Oh, you signed. Okay.
I heard you signed one too, Eddie. I was like, wow, that's huge, Eddie.
Well, when they signed with Oklahoma, they signed with me as well.
You're your brand now?
Yeah.
He's an Eddie Radosevich golfer?
Yeah. Hoping he gets
Team Radosevich?
I'm hoping he gets. That's my one-way ticket to get back to the Masters. He needs to have he needs to win the U.S. Amateur. No pressure.
All you got to do is get people like
I'm going
Victor
ahead of
Hovland has like you can get his Audemars Piguet deal away from him and get like your face embroidered on his shirt.
I'm trying to Nick Heinen this thing. I want to be his caddy when it's all said and done. Nick Heinen's the kid from Edmond North that's Matt Wolf's caddy now.
Shocker of the week. Carey worked a watch reference in there.
I figured that was a watch reference, but I didn't know for a fact.
I'm not a huge AP fan. I mean, all the big ballers wear them. I'm just not I don't know. It just doesn't. It's not my thing. I'm more of a Vacheron guy.
Sure, I just use my phone.
You just say that because you know it hurts me. Okay, so here's the thing, though. Like, the one thing, we can talk about Bedlam a little early, and this is going to be the talk all next week. Like, Kansas, like, Josh, have you ever watched a game where you just, and I know it's in person, it was like watching Wile E. Coyote get run over and over again to the point where at the end of the game, there was just a contorted body on the field that they had to carry off, which is actually what happened. Like, you're sitting there in the press box, and the guy's leg is pointed in one direction, and his body, his arms are in the other direction. And you're like, is he dead? Like, they killed that quarterback. Like in the Daniels kid, and he had a lot of guts and played hard, but he got chased around the entire day. And I don't know how you felt, Josh, but I actually felt sorry for that kid. But at the end of the game,
oh, I did. When he went down, I was like, oh, please let this kid get up. Man, he survived a hell of a lot just to go out with an injury. Like, that's brutal. Like, at least let him walk off the field. And I don't know about you guys, I was stunned he was on the sideline walking, because when you saw him first come out, you're like, oh, that's the season. Like, he's done. Like, that looked like broken bones. Like, that didn't look right at all. But somehow he just out there limping around on the sidelines after, late fourth quarter. And you're like, oh, okay. But, yeah, I'm with you guys. I felt terrible. I thought he was tough. I thought he was surviving a lot. And I thought he showed flashes of being a decent player, but how the hell could you know? Because he's running for his life on every snap.
Yeah, I'm walking into the coach's office Monday and saying I'm opting out. I'm done with this.
Are you going to walk into the offensive line coach's office? Listen,
and then the coach
you're the reason I'm out.
And then the coach would say, but you've already had COVID. You ain't opting shit.
Then I'd say I'm entering the transfer portal. I'm quitting.
And I want to talk about that defensive line versus their offensive line and how that relates to Bedlam. But first, I want to tell you guys about Dead Soxy, our great sponsor of the podcast. Eddie's got buddies that have gotten their socks in, and they love them.
They absolutely love them. Using the promo code BOOMER at checkout, 30% off promo code exclusively for Sooner Scoop. And they really are one of the most comfortable socks I've used or worn, I guess. And they're just perfect because I like the low-cut sock. It's hard to find one that fits you as well as these ones do, and they're great for golf, too. I know the weather's kind of crappy in some spots around the country, but we're still playing golf here in Oklahoma. So
it's a great week this week.
It's been a really nice week.
By the way, I know a lot of people used to come up to us in the airports and stuff and say, hey, I listen in the car with my kids, and I have to explain to them some of the things that are said sometimes and that they shouldn't say them. But kids, if you're growing up and you're listening, you need a good gift for your dad, tell your mom to go to deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. Check out the crimson and cream colorways. Someone asked me if I'm saying waves or ways, and I did research this a little bit. Like in the shoe game, it's color way with a Y. But apparently in the fabric game, sometimes it's waves.
That's news to me.
I guess
didn't know
we need
that.
to hit up Dead Soxy and find out exactly for sure. But
one thing I do know is I love the no-slip silicone beads.
Now you're just hoarding out. Anyway, yeah, it makes a great gift. If your husband is forcing you to listen to this podcast, go to deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. Use that promo code BOOMER. Get 30% off your order. Some of the best dress socks that he's ever going to put on. And as always, guys, stay soxy. Okay, so Bedlam is coming up. Everybody's got a week to rest. Here's the problem. OSU people that I talk to keep talking about the offensive line needs to get better. They need to get better. They've had some injuries. They've had some losses, obviously. Very public losses early in the season, in the preseason. But they still are not good. They can't run the ball. Chuba Hubbard's having a really tough time. L.D. Brown, because he's bigger and more powerful, he's been a better runner for them this year. Whereas Chuba's a guy that needs a crack. He needs some space. He needs to be able to use his speed. They're not able to get him those running lanes with this offensive line. And look, their defensive line is really good too, Oklahoma State's. But you're talking about a huge mismatch right now with Oklahoma's defensive line against Oklahoma State's offensive line. The biggest of the game.
If you're Ronnie Perkins or Perrion Winfrey or, LaRon Stokes,
you got to start throwing Nick Benito in there.
Oh,
now.
absolutely. I don't think he was blocked the entire day on Saturday. I put out those clips on Twitter and on the board. If you're any of those guys on the Oklahoma defensive line, you have to watch that first half of the Kansas State game that Oklahoma State's coming off of and think, this could be our day. Like, this could be a statement game for us. Because I do think that, like, as well as the defense has played over the last 2 weeks, you got to remember who they've played. Texas Tech and Kansas probably the two worst teams in the conference. I'm almost to the point of I want to think this group is really good, and I do think they're really good. I guess I just want to be almost proven to the point of, wow, this team is really good up front. Like, these guys really can make plays. And I think you do that against Oklahoma State if they're the guys I think that they are. They could be very disruptive next Saturday, right, Josh?
Oh, I agree completely. I mean, this is just a deal where, earlier I talked about football being different than basketball. This is like a basketball game. When you have two really good teams, but like the matchup isn't right. Like they're long, and that's going to affect whatever. It's the same kind of deal. Oklahoma State is in a lot of ways, a very equivalent team to Oklahoma. The problem is the matchup doesn't work very well for them because they want to run the ball. They want to use Spencer Sanders on zone read. I mean, they want to do all this stuff that is all triggered by the run game. And, boy, it's really hard to do if you're just getting dominated up front. Like, you can't scheme up a play that works if you can't win up front, if you can't just at least fight off the defensive line. And, guys, I don't know about you, but I've talked to a few people this week, and there is, I wouldn't say confidence, but, like, I think people know that this is a matchup that's going to be a problem for Oklahoma State. Like, this is a thing where it's, I don't get the impression that this is that there's any belief in Norman that it's about Kansas and Texas Tech. It's about this defensive line's really talented and really kind of starting to put it all together.
And it's not just the defensive line; it's the linebackers too. I mean,
sure. Oh, sure.
They are playing
McWaybo
really
had
well.
a nice game. Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at this: 26 sacks on the year, 57 tackles for a loss for this defense right now. I need to go look up nationally. I'm actually on the national stat state.
Josh put it out yesterday.
Yeah.
5th in sacks in the nation and 7th in the country in tackles for loss.
That's right. And, that's and obviously it's a little stilted because, of the conferences that weren't playing until recently and those sort of things. So that changes it a little bit. But still, the sack total compared to last year, Oklahoma, who finished top 25 last year in sacks, they were 21st with 36 in 14 games. So, roughly 2.5 a game. Oklahoma is currently averaging almost 3.3 3/4 sacks per game right now. Like, so if they had the full 14, they'd be pushing close to 50, which is almost 150% of what they did last year. So they're creating a lot more pressure in the pass game. What did surprise me is tackles for loss. They're right on about par with where they were last year. That's about the same kind of number they were clipping at. Now, you have to wonder, they seem like they're hitting stride since Ronnie Perkins came back. So maybe that pace picks up if they, had more of a season to play. But to me, I mean, I don't think there's any question, and we said it last week, but this defensive line group's playing better football than we've seen anybody play Oklahoma, or play at Oklahoma in a decade.
20 sacks, 39 tackles for loss over the last 4 games.
That's insane.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I mean,
and again, you got to remember who they've played. Like I think you can say that without taking away with what they've done because they've been very dominant on the defensive side of the football.
It's not like, they're winning a snap here or there. They're winning all 3 downs. I mean, they're just killing people up front right now. So it's not like, they got this guy or they won here. Like it's again, I keep talking about the depth they've created. Like Marcus Stripling, every time he's on the field, that guy's making plays now. Like it used to be like, that looked kind of good from Marcus Stripling, but now he's becoming a guy that would play and start at a lot of places.
Kansas is next to dead last in sacks given up in Division I. TCU is tied for 104th. Iowa State is actually near the top. They're very good. Kansas State, of course, they haven't given up. West Virginia is very bad. Texas is 73rd. Oklahoma State is 91st. And they got a mobile quarterback.
I mean, I didn't watch. I had the game on my phone
Baylor
on Saturday.
93rd.
But I was shocked to see the numbers that were coming out of Manhattan on Saturday at halftime. 4 first downs and 9 rushing yards.
Yeah,
that just doesn't even compute.
It's awful.
Like, how can they be that
It's
bad?
literally one of Mike Gundy's worst offenses right now that he's ever had at Oklahoma State.
And that's shocking because you have between Tylan Wallace and Chuba, I mean, those are two of probably the more talented guys that they've had up there, right?
Yeah, but the offensive line makes it all fall apart.
Tylen didn't play against Kansas State, so I guess you got to technically take him out of the equation. But he's going to be okay for Bedlam. I think he's kind of like Stogner or Rattler.
He came into the game late on.
That was so weird that he didn't play in the game, but they sent him out for the hands team.
Yeah.
I guess you don't have to really move around. It's a hamstring thing with him.
Yeah, it was weird that they even suited him up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's very odd. Maybe they thought they could get away with it. It came back to bite them.
And it was weird that L.D. Brown was announced out by the OSU
and then
broadcast team, and then he played.
Yeah, is there any update on Peel for Bedlam?
I haven't heard one.
Harvell Peel?
The problem is Bill Haston is about the only guy I talk to on a regular basis that covers them, and he was at the OU game with me last weekend. So, no, I mean, it's there's going to be a lot more to talk about, but I would say, it continues to kind of be the same thing. The defensive line impresses us each and every week, and the other thing is just Ramondre Stevenson is so fucking good. I mean, he's just ridiculous.
They need to start figuring out ways to slowly but surely hint to him, hey, maybe you want to come back. And I guess it kind of sucks, though, Josh, because you just don't see a whole lot of running backs going in the first round anymore, obviously. Mm-hmm. So you can't really sell that idea, can you?
No, I mean, you can't. And the only thing that you can argue for him is there's such a clear top running back this year. I mean, Etienne from Clemson, he's going to be the first guy. Like there's just almost no doubt about it. And then you've got guys like Chuba Hubbard. You've got some names that are known, but you can say, hey, Ramondre, you could come back next year, and I mean, you're going to be a Doak Walker candidate. You could do a lot of different stuff, especially if we can return most of our offensive line. I mean, there's a lot you can sell those guys on. Plus, guys, I can't help. Every time I watch this team come out, I'm like, man, if they can return most of these guys that are draft eligible, that 2021 team could be really, really good.
Sure.
Like one of the, maybe the best since 08, in my opinion. So, you're talking about something special there. And you wonder, with some of these guys, like, does that sell? Does that, like, guys, we could win a national title. If the coaches can sell that to them, is that something that holds weight? Because some guys, it matters. Like, I wonder about, like, Creed Humphrey. Like, being an OU fan, it matters to him. He cares. Like, I don't think he would come back, but I wouldn't rule it out just because, like I said, he could be part of a special season that means something.
Josh, you can just shut your damn mouth, all right?
I know you want your boy to take the money. I know. You sell out.
I think Chris Murray will be a guy that really helps them next year to kind of, offset that loss a little bit.
Sure. It's crazy. I mean,
whether he plays center or, Robinson or Rame ends up stepping up, he'll at least give them something better,
Between watching Murray the last few weeks and watching, I don't know how much if you guys go back and watch Rame late in that game, particularly on the run by Chandler Morris for the touchdown.
Yeah.
He was playing some football, man. Like, it's coming together for him in a hurry.
How's Bray Walker looked out at tackle when you've noticed?
The thing I would say the most is I haven't noticed. So it can't be that, like, I'm not watching people run around him or anything like that. To me, that was always his most natural position. Bray's not a nasty guy. Like, as much as you would think it for the wrestling and all, like, you'd think, oh, yeah, that's his game. He's an athlete. Like, that's the way
Bill
he
was
is.
So hesitant to even give him a shot out there. And I've never really talked to anybody behind the scenes to see why that was.
Yeah, I think you hit that right on the head, Josh. The mentality between a Marquise Hayes and a Bray Walker is just two different specimens.
Yes. Marquise wants to take your soul out of your body. Like, he wants to end you.
He's on that Ben Powers mental game plan.
No doubt.
Actually, while in St. Louis last weekend, stayed in Maryland Heights, the home of Marquise Hayes, not far from the airport on my stay there. So yeah, that was I was like, oh, okay. I never knew where Maryland Heights was in St. Louis, and now I know.
The funny thing is, Marquise Hayes is the best guy. Like. He's the best, which I think a lot of those St. Louis kids are just really good kids.
Well, guys, do you remember a couple of years ago when we went up there for the
big Ronnie
camp?
Perkins?
Yeah, I went to see Ronnie, and Marquise showed up. He came, like, he just signed, and he was out there hanging out. He came over and said hey and was talking to me. You know, like, kids don't do that. Like, nobody does that. And so, like, that's always something that stood out to me about him, and probably why I just like him a little bit more than, Creed or one of those guys.
I remember I think it was a couple years ago, he put up a picture of himself on Instagram, like standing over the top of like a Texas Tech player or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran across him. I said, I was just joking with him. I was like, don't get yourself in trouble on social media. I saw that picture you put up, and he just started laughing. And then he started talking to me. I mean, like, we were old friends. And he was just walking to class. Probably could have gotten in trouble for that these days. Not because of COVID, yeah.
Compliance just like, what? What was happening?
I didn't give him a ride from the airport.
Should have taken him to Topgolf.
Yeah, I didn't do that. Okay, so let me ask you this, Josh. Kansas State definitely losing to Iowa State?
Or Texas. I mean, I don't see any way they don't.
I'm just saying, Nick, because like if they lose to Iowa State, if they beat Iowa State, is it possible they could beat Iowa State? I mean, Iowa State.
No.
They basically had to wake up against Baylor.
Yeah.
By the way, what you think Breece Hall could leave early?
Running back's just such a weird place right now, isn't it? I mean, maybe you leave early.
Year, can he?
No.
Is it just a second year? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
He's
He's
a
a
sophomore.
Okay.
But
Same age as
after
Mark
next
Stick.
year, absolutely.
Yeah, after 3 years of this stuff, he's got to leave after next year.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, as a running back, when you've put together as much tape as he has and as good as he is, I kind of think you're crazy not to leave. Like, if Stevenson had been the premier guy last year or hadn't missed all the time this year, he'd be nuts not to go. But I think his situation is a little bit different, a little bit unique. But I'm first of all, I should say I'm a big Chris Kleiman fan. I think he's really, really good. The fact he gave Oklahoma State the trouble he did last week with just,
spare parts.
Yes, I mean just bad. It says a lot for him as a coach and their staff. I mean they do a really good job. And Iowa State, I mean, are they so explosive they're going to run away from Kansas State? I don't see that. Then again, I'm not the world's biggest Brock Purdy fan. So
well, you shouldn't be. He is.
He just, I mean, you talk about a roller coaster.
He's not the guy that we all thought he was going to be. He's kind of just still the guy that everybody looks at and they see him do some good things and they're like, wow, that guy's got a lot of potential to be something special. Mm-hmm. And he's just never taken the turn.
We see this guy in recruiting all the time. He's great as a freshman, or he shows promise as a freshman. You're like, oh, okay, he's going to be a guy. And then as like a junior or senior, like he's still living on that guy. Like he's not. You've got to keep evolving. You've got to keep getting better. And Brock Purdy's better, but like I think people look at him like the player they thought he was going to be, rather than the player he actually is.
Well, how much of that too is when you lose a guy like he played with Lazard, right? Or am I thinking?
Yeah.
I think 1 year they crossed over.
Yeah, I would have said his freshman year.
When you look at the guys that were around him, it's like, okay, this kind of makes a little bit more sense. But then again, I mean, he does have two of the better tight ends in the league.
But he also had
Montgomery,
Hakeem.
Butler.
Hakeem Butler.
Yeah, I was gonna say Hakeem Nicks. It's definitely not it.
Yeah, and Montgomery, he had him. I mean, although he's not. I watched the Bears a couple of times.
He plays for one of the worst offenses in the National Football League.
I'm not sure he's kind of like he's kind of one of those guys that's good if he's got a good offensive line, and he needs to be in a more inventive offense. Like he could do what
I don't think inventive and Matt Nagy.
Yeah.
Or
if you put him in Kansas City's
sentence.
offense, he could do some similar things to Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Sure. I mean, Andy Reid could probably run circles around Matt Nagy, though.
Yeah, it's pretty
offensively.
Bad. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to have a lot more coming up this week. I mean, we didn't even talk to Alex Grinch this week, kind of gave him the week off just because he's been good to us. He's talked to us, and So we just talked to players. So they talked to Lincoln yesterday. Before we get into recruiting, was there anything that really stood out to you talking to the coaches or players this week?
No, not really. I think that they feel pretty good about where they are. I mean, I when you put two performances together and score 60 points offensively, you have to feel pretty good. It's just kind of weird to say that they didn't play well. I did think that this was kind of interesting. This is more of a college football thing. If you have anything else with Lincoln, did you?
No, not really. Nothing that you haven't read.
This just came on the radar just a minute ago because Dusty tweeted it out. Dvorak talking about, you see the landscape of college football and everything that is happening right now with COVID, and he basically said, how will a college football committee get down to 4 teams right now? Like, how do you compare resumes when this team has played X many games, this team's going to play this many games? And he ended it with basically saying, it's time to think outside the box, expand the playoff to 8. Is it way too late in the process right now? And this is obviously through an Oklahoma lens, because they would benefit from it if they were able to close this thing out.
Yeah, I think
is there any chance that could happen?
They've said no. I mean, they've pushed back every time someone has mentioned it. But, I mean, under these circumstances, I mean, the NBA didn't want to have to play in a bubble, but they did. Major League Baseball kind of bubbled it up at the end. They had played a 16-team playoff, and it didn't hurt the game. It actually helped the game.
It would be so 2020 if by the end of this, Oklahoma all of a sudden looks up, and they would obviously have to beat Oklahoma State, Baylor, and West Virginia and then win the Big 12, but all of a sudden you're like the 7 seed in an 18 playoff.
You guys know it brings me no joy to agree with Tom Luginbill, but he said it during the broadcast, and he said it a couple of times since. OU's playing. I mean, there's only a couple of teams that I would say Oklahoma probably can't beat them. Like, I don't think they're going to play with Clemson with Trevor Lawrence. They're not going to beat Bama. They're probably not going to beat Ohio State. But
they might not beat
anybody
Notre
else?
Dame.
See, I'm just so I don't know.
I think Ian Book would have a bad day.
I'm just so
He's been sacked a bunch,
I'm just so in between of thinking, yeah, these guys are playing really well, or is it you've played 2 really bad football teams?
I don't know. They're just with Ramondre Stevenson.
No, and I agree.
They're such a good team.
Sure. I guess I have a little bit of PTSD of you get in a good game against a really good defense, and we'll see. I think Oklahoma State can play a little bit.
Yeah,
Does Rattler
They can.
all of a sudden you look up and Rattler's turned the ball over 3 times? Because if you turn the ball over like you did against Kansas, you could get beat because of that next weekend. Obviously, it's not going to happen against Kansas because they're terrible.
Don't get me wrong. I think Oklahoma State's easily the best defense Oklahoma has played this year. I don't think there's any question. That's a good defense, which some podcast was telling everybody in the preseason and got a lot of shit for it. But that's a really good defense. But at the same time, I struggle to see how. I mean, do I think that defense can hold Oklahoma to 20? No, I don't believe that. So, do I think that Oklahoma State's offense is going to go score 30 against the way Oklahoma's playing defensively right now? I don't see that. I just don't. I don't buy it. Maybe I'll be wrong, and that's fine if I am. But it's really tough to create things when you're that overmatched up front.
I'll say this: the 2 games that show you Oklahoma's real potential are Texas and TCU. Mm-hmm. If they played Texas again, they might beat them like 42-17. Texas is a very average football team.
Well, OU had multiple chances in that game where they didn't play all that well.
I'm just saying,
have that kind of
and that was before their offensive line was playing, all that great.
Well, not to mention
Stephen Pledger. God damn it, I keep doing that. TJ Pledger.
That'd be sweet if
Stephen
Pledger was still around.
Remember, got most of his yardage late in that game.
Well, let's be honest. It's literally 31-17 with 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
If you just close that game out 31-17, I think there's a lot of people saying it's a very complete victory.
Lincoln Riley's play calling.
Sure.
And then the TCU game, that was an easy victory. And nobody's really had an easy victory against TCU.
TCU is a weird team this year. It's just strange.
Because everybody's afraid of Gary Patterson. They won't get blown out. Gary Patterson will make you go lick his
blow me out,
statue's
you will-
butt or something.
Death,
I'm gonna come
taxes,
into your
and,
room and-
Gary Patterson trying to blow out Baylor. You can guarantee all those.
I bet he probably just sits and watches like film of Ahmad Dixon and Art Briles post-game press conferences to get jacked up for playing Baylor still to this day.
I could see that. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I do think that a push to expand the playoff, if we continue down the route that we're going right now, it feels like it's going to just get louder and louder. But then again,
If the Pac-12
the
and
people on the College Football Playoff Committee probably need to turn their hearing aids up to even hear.
and the Big Ten, if they continue to be kind of shit shows and don't get to play all their games, at some point you just have to say, look, we have to let every Power Five have a seat at the table. And you say OU is a 7 seed, they might have to put OU in. If they win out, they might have to put them in as a 3 seed because they'd be the only team that would have accomplished anything besides Clemson and Alabama.
Yeah, I mean Notre Dame would be undefeated.
Well, yeah, but I'm thinking about the ACC spot
That'd be amazing.
because I don't know how many games the Pac-12 is going to end up getting.
I think I officially want that kind of chaos to happen. And
Whoever's-
obviously that we benefit from
whoever's
it.
playing Cal, just know that you're probably not going to get to play that game that week.
Oh, I mean, if you even have to breathe in Berkeley County, you better not plan on it. Bring your own oxygen.
I'm glad I went to Berkeley before all this madness happened. I'm glad I went to Portland before all this madness just enveloped the
I don't even know
world.
if those towns are still around.
Well, you know, it's where all the fake voters are living.
Oh, I've seen it. Believe me.
No, come back.
We've equally ripped on the Democrats and the Republicans.
Oh, they're
during the
both
show.
idiots.
I just want to point that out.
Both idiots.
Yes. As long as we're all three on the same page, that they're all just morons, I'm fine with that.
If I had to go on a cross-country trip with Jim Inhofe and Nancy Pelosi, I'd kill myself.
Well, it's just like when the Democrats are out there celebrating in the streets after Biden was declared winner.
That was the best Twitter comparison of all time. The guy that was saying, like, time to celebrate and had a picture of all the people and then took the picture of all the kids at Notre Dame in the middle of the field.
Yes.
Like, literally
Ripping them.
30 minutes between. It's like the most irony, political-filled bullshit I've ever seen.
Yeah, anyway, I'll stop.
Recruiting.
But I think let's talk a little recruiting.
Recruiting before everybody turns off the pod in disgust. Mm-hmm. Actually, people aren't really that disgusted. They just like to bitch.
Well, both sides are just idiots.
Agreed.
Recruiting. Josh, you went and saw Luther Burden over the weekend. The film that you were able to return, I would say he looks the part.
Yeah. It took a little while in that game for him to kind of get going. They weren't looking his way. It was interesting because usually when I say something like that, it's like, oh, well, the other team was so focused on him. And there were plays where you could see that, like they had a couple guys over him, but it wasn't like, I've seen games where they're just, like almost like a double team at the line of scrimmage. Like they're bracketing a guy and then still have a safety over the top. It wasn't like that. It was just kind of I think Ritter knew they were a lot better than the team they were playing, even though, and this is the weirdest part about it, Ritter came into this game 1-3. The team they were playing was 8-1. They beat them 45-14, and it wasn't that close. Like, one of the touchdowns that Park Hill Central scored, I always want to say Park Hill South, and I guess that's a South Park thing, but Park Hill Central, they scored on they throw it out, or they run a reverse, and then the guy flips it back and throws it to the quarterback, and he slipped out of the backfield. And it's like that was, late third quarter. They were already down about 30 points at that point, and it was like that's all you've got. They knew they were overmatched, and I got there, and I think I texted you guys. I was like, this is confusing as hell because the team that looks like it's 8-1 is 1-3, and the team that looks like it's 1-3 is 8-1. So I don't know what's going to happen here. But no, it was a supremely impressive performance from Luther Burden. He just showed you a little bit of everything, and it showed a definite ability to take the short pass, make some quick moves. I wanted to see his feet because I've kind of had him in my head as a bigger guy, and he's probably about 6 foot, about 185. So, I mean, he's not tremendously large, probably comparable to like a Sterling Shepard.
He's a thick
physically.
guy, though. I mean, he's not skinny.
And that was something that stood out to me. He's more physically developed than I expected him to be. He's a little more well put together. But no, I loved what I saw. Good hands, caught everything, very twitchy. But I thought he showed a little more top-end speed than I expected on that play that was the one that, was all over Twitter, and I know Eddie's tweeted it out a few times as well, where he shakes a couple defenders, and then you can't see him because I'm right in the middle of the Ritter sideline, and one of the coaches steps into my shot, and then all of a sudden you just see Burden pop out of nowhere, and he's flying up the sideline. And, I mean, like I said, his speed is easy. He accelerates very naturally. There's no question why he's one of the, top 2 or 3 receivers in the country. And I just couldn't have been more impressed with what I saw. And then, talking to him after the game, if I'm an OU fan, I feel really good about how that interview went because I asked him several times kind of where he was. I know Ohio State's been a big talking point for a lot of people with him. He told me he doesn't want to take any more visits. He knows what he wants to do. He seems very locked in with Oklahoma right now.
Am I just a terrible person for when I hear a junior in high school say that, I go, For a kid that
fair.
Hasn't been able to take visits yet,
that's
I'm not calling him a liar, but it just like
when things open back up, are you saying that you're going to turn down official visits? No, you're probably not going to.
Even if I was a coach, I think I would say, you need to get out. You need to see, you need to experience this.
Maybe that shows you how hard OU recruits, that they've sold this kid that hard at this point in time.
Well, I mean, and it says something for OU that they got him down last season. I mean, for that Iowa State game, that was a big deal for him, clearly. I mean, like he said in the interview, he's been to 2 college football games ever, and one of them was Oklahoma. Now, I will say, he said, without me even asking him, I was asking him kind of something else, and he was like, oh, yeah, I mean, I've kind of wanted to go to Oklahoma since I was a freshman. So, it sounds like a kid that really did buy it. But I agree with you guys. You don't know, anybody that's like, well, he said back during the season that he was, man, he's a high school junior. Go easy. You were in high school, you didn't live up to every promise you made either.
I thought I was going to be an architect when I was a junior in high school.
Yeah, I was going to be Maverick.
Hard. Yeah.
So I was going to the Naval Academy, going to be Top Gun. So that was going to happen. So, but no, like I said, but, it's one of those things where it's kind of like when people are like, well, he's committed, but he's so young, it doesn't matter. Would you rather have him committed or not committed? You'd rather have him where he is. That's better than the alternative.
No
but
doubt.
like I said,
the longer he stays
Hell
committed,
no.
the more he brings other top recruits with him.
Absolutely.
particularly in an area that seems to be putting out a lot of players. I mean, you look at obviously at Ronnie Perkins, Deron Neal a couple years ago in the St. Louis area, Marquise Hayes out of Kansas City, or I guess St. Louis. Another guy that you were able to talk to, Josh, too, while you were up there was Tyson Ford, the 2022 strong side defensive end from, is it John Burroughs High School? Is that where that's at?
Yep. For those that don't know, the same high school that Ezekiel Elliott came from. So it's a school, there were several people that were like, man, that kid is more well-spoken than I am, which is not a huge leap, but, it's okay. That's fine. You can say that. I was talking to their head coach, and he was telling me that their average ACT score on their roster is 31. That's insane. And he was like, yeah, we've got Tyson here who's going to go wherever he wants to go for college football. And he goes, my left tackle is Brown's number 1 tackle in the class of 2022. This guy, Dartmouth's all over him. It was just Ivy League everywhere. And you're like, God, these kids, I need to become friends with them so they can be my boss someday. But they, it was an interesting dynamic, a beautiful campus. But yeah, he was great to talk to. Really, you could tell really likes Oklahoma, has built a good relationship with Calvin Thibodeau. And really, he kind of mentioned he's thinking about making a decision here in the next couple months. And not long after saying that was like, yeah, I pay more attention to Oklahoma than I do anybody else. You read into those two things what you want to, but that sure sounds good for Oklahoma.
Josh, I know we're up against it. Anything else that you wanted to?
Kelvin Gilliam.
Okay.
Yeah. Got to talk about the Kelvin Gilliam situation. And for those that are listening and haven't checked the site in a little while, we've got a full story. I did an interview with him a couple nights ago. Sorry it took me a little while to get it up. All the moving chaos. My life is kind of a hellscape. But it was – I thought it was really interesting with talking to him because, there's been kind of a feeling with Notre Dame where they seem to have some confidence that they could maybe turn him around. I talked to people, my sources, and he's saying all the right things to Oklahoma. Like, I don't get the impression that he's given them any reason for concern. And I think Oklahoma was in on this early. Like, they knew it was happening. They knew what was going on. And a lot of that is Kelvin and his family communicate really well with Oklahoma. So, and I one of the things, and I have all these kind of rules of things where you watch, and when a kid, like I said, when a kid goes incommunicado, that's usually a bad sign. Most kids, like I was talking to Mike Singer from our Notre Dame site, and he goes, I can't believe Kelvin's going to do an interview with you. And I was like, I kind of am shocked too. But it usually is a sign of where he is in the recruitment. Kelvin's an extremely nice kid. Eddie and Bob and Carey, assuming I'm right and he stays with Oklahoma, they're going to love interviewing that guy for the next few years. He is great to talk to. So I think it's a good sign for OU that he's still talking to guys like me. He's still very open with what's going on. I think he has some interest in Notre Dame. I don't think anybody should be so confident that they just write this off as nothing. But at the same time, he's very close with Caleb Williams. Damond Harmon is obviously one of his best friends and his high school teammate. There's a lot that connects him to Oklahoma beyond just, I like the coaches, or I like the scheme, or I like that I could play early there. There's a lot that connects him to OU. So we'll kind of watch and see what happens here, and I'm definitely going to stay in contact with him. He and I have a really good relationship, so I don't think it's going to be something where he blindsides me or anything like that. But at the same time, Oklahoma has to take this seriously, but I think they know that, how serious this is, and they're doing what they need to do to kind of lock that back down.
I'm not going to say anything.
I was
just waiting for you to say something.
I'm just thinking of all the podcast listeners that didn't take us up on any of our offers, that are just hearing this for the first time and screaming.
Yeah, you could have been on the site for $12. Could have been you.
All right. Anything else that needs to be thrown out there? I mean, high school playoffs getting ready to get started.
Yeah, it's just going to be weird. I mean, Oklahoma high school playoffs starting this week. It's just going to be strange, like with everything that's going on. You look at the towns that have already had to cancel games, and of course the way that the OSAA is working the playoffs. If you have one positive case and you have to back out, the other team moves on. So it's going to be, I think it's affecting the smaller towns a lot more than maybe the big schools. It'll be kind of interesting to see how that goes. But, I'm very excited to see how 6A2 kind of breaks down. I think that we all kind of expect it to be Bixby and Choctaw. Bixby and Stillwater when it's all said and done. See if Choctaw can do anything. I did see that Braylon Presley got offered today after his big performance on a national stage a week ago. You think there's any chance OU gets involved there?
I don't, and it's not because people will say,
it's just a weird year.
It's a weird year where Oklahoma is in on a couple of guys that would have a very similar role to him that are, not just like very good players, just like Braylon is. They're very good, and he's very good as well. But these are 10-3, 10-4, 100-meter guys, and Braylon, as good as he is, that's probably the one knock on him, aside from being about 5'6". I mean, he has some knocks that you can make, but man, I don't want it to come off as I'm knocking him as a player, because he is outstanding. But it's just Oklahoma can just do some things that others can't, and that's kind of where they're at with this. But don't make no mistake, he's probably going to follow his brother to Oklahoma State, and he'll be really good, just like Brennan will be.
Be like the new set of Lockett brothers.
Yeah, really.
Yep, and then someday they'll have, children that will continue, maybe the Presleys can continue to torture Oklahoma for about 20 years.
Well, Aaron's looking pretty good in the NFL these days. He's kind of become, I would say he's top 10 receiver in the league now.
Tyler,
Aaron,
yeah.
Tyler.
Really
There's
good.
so many of them. Some were nephews. not sons.
Yeah, that's the thing that I can't ever follow the Lockett tree. I don't know who's like. I know they're all related, but I don't know.
think Kevin
who belongs
was the
to who.
first, right? Kevin Lockett.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was definitely Kevin. Yeah. In the '90s, back when Kansas State was just really starting to get rolling.
All right, I've enjoyed it. Thanks, Dead Soxy. Go check them out. Enter that code Boomer for 30% off. Thanks to Josh, who will now we probably won't hear from him for a while because he'll be buried under boxes for a while.
There's some truth in that. But, hey, the good news is going to have an office again to myself, so maybe some post-game pod can start becoming a part of my life again. So that's exciting.
Talk is cheap.
We'll see. Hey, we'll see. I may drink too much and pass out before, but if that doesn't happen,
let's face it,
then,
that's what happens every time.
Especially with the 6:30 kickoff. You got to stay up late. You got to stay up with the bird.
Yeah, you'll never make a 6:30 kickoff.
I can't.
I did one a couple years ago. The one with Jared when he came on with us too.
Oh, that's right.
I remember that one.
I still can't believe that it will be the first time OU's played OSU
at night
in Norman. That is just
crazy.
mind-blowing.
Because you think of a lot of games that end. The Tiger Hill game ended at night. The Big 12 championship was later in the day, but
they were all like 2:30,
3:30
3:30 starts. So, and of course, daylight savings, it gets dark around 5.
Right.
So I think I'm going to like that, though. They need to just
It'll be
open up
cool.
the entire stadium.
It'll be cool.
Let 85,000 in.
Hit up
Dan
Stitter.
Mullen
Hit up Stitter.
pick it out.
I don't think he's going to be picking up my phone calls anytime soon. I think we've
Been talking some shit on him.
burned that bridge.
The steak conversation never continued, huh? Past that.
I guess not. I mean, when I did tweet yesterday, I think I could be a better governor, so we'll see.
Do Dan Mullen and Kevin Stitt look a little bit alike, or is that just my imagination?
No.
Okay.
Both look like pussies.
Oh my God. There you go. Eddie got it in before we got out of here. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week where we preview Bedlam, a huge one coming up. And thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week on the Unofficial 40 podcast from SoonerScoop.com.